Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the weekly MMA Cycles market update. After a nice 2-week break, it's great to be back with you. I'm Gianni DePocia, your host, and it's been a pretty interesting couple of weeks for many markets. Stocks were largely range bound, and we just completed what's known as the proverbial Santa Claus rally. Now we're in a period otherwise known as, well, there's a phrase in markets that goes, as goes January, as goes the year. Geocosmically, we're in Capricorn season, and this is a very interesting time of the year because you have the Roman god Janus, from which January is named after, and it was symbolic of the doors, and the symbol represents the end and the beginning being the same point in time. So we are in that very interesting period now, and stocks have had a pretty interesting week. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. We can start off by looking at the Dow Jones. Strong rally here on Friday. We had a really positive non-farm payroll reports that came in above estimates. Labor market continues to display its resiliency. Rate hike expectations are slightly treading higher, but right now the market seems to be digesting the news in stride, and that's a really good sign. This past week, we had a couple key geocosmic signatures. We had Venus form a conjunction to Pluto, and Venus ingressed into the sign of Aquarius as well. Those happened on the 1st of the year and on the 2nd of January, respectively. Then yesterday, on the 5th of January, we had the sun form a trine to Uranus. And so this erratic action that we're seeing in stocks and other markets is really emblematic of that transit, because with Uranus, it's notorious for breaking levels of support and resistance. And if we look at this chart here in the Dow, you had a really small, not really significant resistance zone in that 33,300. And this signature between the sun and Uranus seems to be breaking above. But, yesterday, after Thursday's close, it looked like we were going to reverse back lower. We also are in the midpoint for the Mercury retrograde period right now, so not uncommon to see erratic price action. So between Mercury retrograde and Uranus forming, or Sun trine Uranus, this price action is really representative of the geocosmics. And keep in mind, Uranus is also viewed as a higher octave of Mercury. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ, which is also having a strong day here on Friday. Not up as much as the Dow, but a strong day nonetheless. And so if we can avoid a close near the lows of the week, which it looks like we're poised to do so, still a couple hours left in this session as this video is being recorded, that would be a most welcome sign. But, one of the things that we're keen on is, Jupiter going through the sign of Aries right now, and how that might affect various sectors of the market. So we would look for sectors ruled by Aries, stuff like defense stocks, steel, even solar stocks because of the sun's, rulership of gold, and even metals because the sun rules gold as well. So let's go ahead and look at the 10-year interest rate as well. We have a pretty big sell-off in rates today on Friday, so bonds are catching a bid here. So what is really happening is you're seeing the yield curve invert even more, and this increases the odds of a recession. So the tighter that the Fed is going into this year, the odds increase that layoffs are going to pick up. So we had news this last week that Amazon is going to lay off more employees than expected. So definitely something to keep an eye on, because the Fed is watching that per what's known as the Phillips curve. Looking forward into the week ahead, we have Venus trine Mars on the 9th. We have Mars finally ending his retrograde motion and going direct on the 12th of January. And then next Saturday, we will have Venus square Uranus. So which is a good pivot to the next market I want to look at. The US dollar, caught a nice bid here, selling off a little bit on Friday, but with all these Venus signatures, it really was a major focus. So we'll have to keep an eye on that next week as we go into that Venus-Uranus square aspect. I want to take a look at gold because we had some big moves, and we're going out near the highs of the week thus far. Again, still a couple hours left in this session here, but a pretty positive move here, and we could attribute this to Jupiter transiting through Aries, like I mentioned a little bit ago, the sun's rulership of gold. Jupiter has a tendency to increase demand for sectors. It can also lead to an oversupply, but that doesn't seem to be an issue right now with respect to precious metals. So GDX is a ETF that we cover in the MMA ETF report. So if you want to know how we're trading that, I would encourage you to check that out. GLD, the gold spot ETF, having a good finish to the week here, trading near the highs. We look at silver. Silver also doing very well, outperforming gold on a percentage basis. You know, gold actually showed some more resiliency compared to silver this week, which is a positive sign with respect to our indicators. Want to take a look at USO, the crude oil ETF. You know, crude oils continue to struggle, and this is worth keeping a close eye on, because as Saturn goes into the sign of Pisces on March 7th, you know, we could see lower demand for crude oil, and that could be attributed to an upcoming recession. The other hand of Saturn, it could lead to shortages, and there still are policy objectives or directions that are really a headwind for oil production. So we'll have to see how that unfolds. And I also want to bring attention to how Saturn in Pisces could lead to a shortage in medical staff and medical supplies. Some of you may be aware that there's actually a shortage of some common medicines across the United States right now, and in parts of Canada as well. And I would attribute that to Saturn on the precipice of beginning his transit through the sign of Pisces. So keep an eye on crude oil here, because a lot of those medicines use crude oil, derivatives of petroleum, to basically make those remedies. The last market I wanted to look at today is Bitcoin. Continues to be a snooze fest and consolidating within this range that's been in effect since November. Now, we were looking for Bitcoin and cryptos to experience bigger moves given the sun's trine to Uranus, but that hasn't really unfolded as such now. So we'll look forward to Venus square Uranus next week. We could look for a big move in crypto within the next 2 weeks, higher or lower. That remains to be seen, but would encourage you to take a look at the MMA crypto report that's published on a daily basis. So that takes care of what I wanted to review with you today. It's good to be back. Thank you for watching. Check us out at www.mmacycles.com. We have the monthly cycles report set to be published on the 9th and 10th of next week, January 9th and 10th. And then also stay tuned for some upcoming announcements on the Merriman Market Timing Academy. We've been getting some inquiries on that, so we will be totally public with that very shortly. So if you have any questions, feel free to send us an email at customerservice@mmacycles.com. And I would also encourage you to sign up for the MMA free weekly report that Ray publishes each week. It's a fantastic complement to these YouTube videos. If you enjoy these, you get the 1-2 punch of Ray and myself. So thanks for watching. www.mmacycles.com. Have a great weekend. We'll be back next week.